the dare. It always does, doesn't it? Someone's overinflated ego. A crowd's nervous laughter and the itch of curiosity that refuses to stay scratched. That's how I found myself, standing at the entrance of an abandoned estate at the edge of town, its wrought iron gates rusted, but imposing, its windows like hollowed eyes that stared into a dark abyss. They called it the House of Veils, a name whispered in hushed tones, as though speaking it too loudly might summon something best left undisturbed. Stories floated around about the place, people who entered but never left, a labyrinth within its walls, and shadows that moved even when no one was there to cast them. It was, of course, ridiculous, or so I thought. I stepped through the gate alone, the others stayed behind, their silhouettes fading as the fog rolled in. The air was colder here, biting through my jacket. The house loomed ahead, its facade cracked and weathered, but the door was pristine, painted an unsettling shade. Red, it was slightly ajar, as if inviting me in. Inside, the air was still, heavy with the scent of mildew and something sweeter, like decayed flowers. My footsteps echoed too loud against the tiled floor. The entryway was vast. Arched ceilings that disappeared into shadows, a grand staircase spiraled upward, its banister carved with twisting shapes that didn't seem entirely human. I should have stopped there. I should have turned back, laughed it off, and told the others it was all just old wood and bad lighting. But then I saw a faint glow spilling from a doorway to the right, pulsing like a heartbeat. Curiosity overruled caution, and I followed it. The room was empty save for a mirror that stretched from floor to ceiling. Its frame was ornate, gilded, and oddly warm to the touch when I reached out. My reflection stared back at me, but something about it felt wrong. My face was the same, yet my expression was different. It smiled faintly, though I was certain my lips hadn't moved. Then it tilted its head, just slightly. I did not. I stumbled backward, and the mirror rippled like water. Before I could react, the floor beneath me seemed to shift, and the walls elongated. I spun around, but the doorway I had entered through was gone. In its place stretched a corridor lined with identical mirrors, each reflecting not me but something else. Figures moved within the glass, shadowy, distorted, their eyes following me as I walked. The hallway twisted and turned, each step taking me deeper. The air grew heavier, suffused with an electric hum that pressed against my skull. I tried to retrace my steps, but the mirrors began to change. They no longer reflected the corridor, but instead showed fragmented scenes, a dark forest, a room filled with whispering shadows, a version of myself standing frozen, eyes wide with terror. "It's not real," I whispered, my voice cracking, but the mirrors laughed. It wasn't a sound. Not exactly, but a sensation, a vibration that rattled my teeth and sent a chill down my spine. I ran then, choosing random turns, desperate to escape. The corridors became narrower, the mirrors closer together, until I could see my own breath fogging the glass. Except it wasn't my breath. The figures inside the mirrors exhaled in unison, their movements synchronized with mine. They weren't shadows anymore. They were clearer, more defined, and I recognized faces among them. Faces of people I'd known, people who weren't alive anymore. I don't know how long I wandered. Hours, days, time didn't exist here. The corridors changed around me, the mirrors warping into windows that peered into places I couldn't understand. I don't know how long I wandered. Hours, days, time didn't exist here. The corridors changed around me, the mirrors warping into windows that peered into places I couldn't understand. The corridor ended in a single door. It was identical to the red door I had entered earlier, but this time it was painted black. My hand trembled as I reached for the handle. The voice spoke again, this time directly in my ear. "You shouldn't have come." I opened the door. There was no room beyond it, just endless mirrors stretching into infinity, each reflecting a version of me. Some stared back with hollow eyes, others had twisted smiles. One stepped forward, raising a hand to the glass, and when it touched the surface, the mirror shattered. The sound was deafening, and the shards didn't fall. They hung in the air, floating, spinning, trapping me in a kaleidoscope of fractured reflections. I know where I am now. The labyrinth changes constantly, a living thing that feeds on my fear. The mirrors show me things I can't unsee, moments from my past, futures that might have been, nightmares I thought were buried. Sometimes I see the others who dared to enter this place, their faces pressed against the glass, screaming silently. and sometimes I see you.